The coffee was getting cold in Lee Minji's cup as she sat in row 7 of gate 47. She turned another page in her physics journal while other passengers around her talked loudly about delayed flights and weather problems. The morning sun came through, the big windows of Seoul International Airport, making everything look normal and peaceful. Minji liked sitting in row 7. It was quiet there. Most people picked seats closer to the gate counter or near the food court. She had learned that airports were full of patterns if you watched carefully. People always did the same things. They checked their phones every few minutes. They walked to the bathroom at certain times. They bought coffee when they felt nervous. She was not nervous about flying to Tokyo. She had made this trip many times for work. Minji worked as a quantum engineer for a company that built special computers, but her real job was different. Her real job was secret. 3 days ago, she had seen data that made her hands shake. The data came from Project Lighthouse, a program that watched space for signals from other worlds. Only 12 people in South Korea knew about Project Lighthouse. Only 3 people knew what the data really meant. Something big was coming to Earth. The first sign was not the sirens. The first sign was the way all the birds stopped singing at exactly 11:47 in the morning. Minji looked up from her journal and noticed the silence. Even inside the airport, you could usually hear birds through the glass. Now there was nothing. Then the lights began to flicker. The big screens showing flight information went black for 3 seconds. When they came back on, all the departure times had changed to say delayed. Every single flight. That was impossible unless someone had control of the whole system. An old man sitting across from her pointed at the window. "Look at that," he said in Korean. "What is that thing?" Minji turned to look outside. At first, she saw only clouds. Then the clouds began to move in ways that clouds should not move. They were forming a circle in the sky, spinning slowly like water going down a drain. In the center of the circle, something dark was getting bigger. Other passengers started to notice. A mother with 2 small children pressed her face against the window. A businessman dropped his phone and forgot to pick it up. A group of college students stopped laughing and pointed at the sky. The dark thing in the clouds was not a cloud. It was made of metal and was the size of a small city. It had smooth sides that reflected the sunlight like a mirror. Strange lights blinked along its edges in patterns that hurt to look at directly. That was when the sirens started. The airport speakers crackled to life. A woman's voice spoke in Korean, then English, then Chinese. "Attention all passengers and staff. This is an emergency announcement. Please proceed immediately to the nearest exit. Do not run. Do not panic. Follow the instructions of airport security personnel." Around Minji, people began to stand up and grab their bags. Some moved quickly toward the exits. Others stood still and stared at the thing in the sky. A few people started crying. One man was praying quietly in a language she did not recognize. Minji did not move from row 7. She opened her phone and sent a text message to a number with no name in her contacts. The message had only 4 words. Blue Echo 7 confirmed. The reply came back in 10 seconds. Stay in position. The alien ship was completely visible now. It hung in the air above the airport like it weighed nothing. Minji could see that. It was not just one ship, but many ships connected together. Some parts looked like they were made of crystal. Other parts looked like living tissue that moved and breathed. Security guards in yellow vests were walking through the gate area, asking people to leave calmly. Most passengers listened and walked toward the exits, but some people refused to go. They wanted to keep watching the ship. They wanted to take pictures with their phones. One security guard approached Minji. He was young and looked scared. "Miss, you need to evacuate now," he said in Korean. "I am waiting for someone," Minji replied. "No one is coming. All flights are canceled. The whole airport is closing. I will wait 5 more minutes." The guard looked confused but moved on to other passengers. He had bigger problems than one woman who wanted to sit in row 7. Through the window, Minji watched smaller ships separate from the main vessel. They were beautiful in a way that made her chest feel tight. Each small ship moved like it was swimming through air instead of flying. They came down slowly and landed in the empty areas around the airport. The ships made no sound that she could hear through the glass. Her phone buzzed with another message. First contact in progress. Record everything. Do not interfere. Minji took out a small device that looked like a regular tablet computer. It was not regular. It was connected directly to Project Lighthouse and could analyze things that normal computers could not understand. She pointed it at the alien ships and began to record. The data that appeared on her screen made her heart beat faster. The ships were using energy in ways that human science said was impossible. They were bending space around themselves. They were communicating with each other using quantum signals that traveled faster than light. But there was something else in the data. Something that worried her. The energy patterns were wrong. These ships were not exploring. They were not here for peaceful contact with humans. According to her readings, the ships were damaged. They were running from something, and whatever they were running from was much more dangerous than they were. A new sound filled the airport. It was like music, but deeper than any music humans could make. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. It made the windows vibrate. It made people stop talking and listen. The alien ships were trying to communicate. Minji watched her tablet as it translated the sounds into patterns she could understand. The message was simple, but terrifying. Greetings, people of this world. We are refugees. We seek safe passage. We are not alone. Others follow us. You have little time to prepare. She looked around the gate area. Only a few passengers were left now. Most had evacuated or were walking toward the exits. None of them understood what they had just heard. None of them knew that Earth had just received its first message from another world, and none of them knew that it might also be Earth's last warning. Minji stayed in row 7 and kept recording. Someone had to witness this moment. Someone had to understand what was really happening. Her coffee was completely cold now, but she did not care. History was beginning, and she had the best seat in the house. 3 days had passed since the ships arrived. The world had gone crazy in those 3 days. Every television channel, every website, every conversation was about the aliens. The Vorthak, they called themselves. The name sounded like wind blowing through crystal caves. Lee Minji sat in her small apartment in Seoul, watching the news while her computer analyzed the data she had collected at the airport. The president of South Korea was on television, shaking hands with a tall alien that looked like it was made of living glass. The alien's skin changed colors when it moved, shifting from blue to green to silver. Today marks a new chapter in human history, the president said with a big smile. Our new friends from the stars have shown us that we are not alone in the universe. They seek only fuel and supplies before continuing their peaceful journey to find a new home. Minji turned off the television. The president did not know what. She knew. None of the world leaders knew. The data from her tablet told a different story than the one the aliens were sharing with Earth's governments. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed no name, just a number she recognized. Blue Echo 7, she answered. This is Commander Park Hyunwoo from Korean Space Defense Force. We need to meet. Now. Minji had never met Commander Park, but she knew his name from Project Lighthouse files. He was one of the few military officers who knew about humanity's secret space monitoring program. If he was calling her directly, something was very wrong. They met at a small coffee shop in Gangnam District. Commander Park was younger than she expected, maybe 35 years old, with serious eyes and the kind of posture that came from years of military training. He wore civilian clothes but still looked like a soldier. "Show me what you found," he said without saying hello first. Minji opened her tablet and showed him the energy readings from the alien ships. "Look at these patterns," she said, pointing to waves of data that moved across the screen. The Vorthak ships are not just damaged, they are being tracked. Park leaned closer. Tracked by what? Something that uses quantum signatures to follow them across space. Every few hours, the Vorthak ships send out pulses of energy to check if they are still being followed. The answer is always yes. She scrolled to another screen full of numbers and graphs. Their ships are fast, but whatever is chasing them is faster. Based on the decay rate of the tracking signals, I estimate their pursuers are about 4 days behind them. Commander Park was quiet for a long moment. He drank his coffee and stared out the window at the busy street. Normal people walked by, carrying shopping bags and talking on phones, completely unaware that their world might be in terrible danger. The alien representatives told our government they were refugees from a war, Park said finally. They said their enemies destroyed their home planet. They asked for fuel and supplies to continue running. That part is true, Minji replied. But they did not tell your government everything. They are not just running away. They are leading their enemies straight to Earth. Park's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. What do you mean? Minji showed him another set of data. The tracking signal works both ways. The Vorthak can detect their pursuers, but their pursuers can also detect them. By coming to Earth, by staying here for 3 days, they have given their enemies a clear target. Are you saying they came here on purpose to put us in danger? No. I think they came here because they had no choice. Their ships are almost out of fuel, but there is something else. She scrolled to a new screen. I have been monitoring all radio and quantum communications since they arrived. The Vorthak are talking to each other in a language that their translators do not share with humans. I have been trying to decode it. She played an audio file. Strange sounds filled the air between them, like whale songs mixed with computer noises. This message was sent from the Vorthak command ship to all other Vorthak vessels 6 hours ago. I managed to translate part of it. The translation appeared on her screen in simple English words. Earth species shows promise. Prepare contingency plan 7. If Drakturi arrive before departure, implement final protocols. Commander Park set down his coffee cup with shaking hands. Drakturi. That must be the name of their enemies. Yes. And contingency plan 7 sounds like they have been planning for this situation. Minji closed the tablet and looked directly at Park. I think the Vorthak chose Earth specifically, not just for fuel, but for some other reason they have not told us. Park was quiet again. Around them, the coffee shop was full of normal afternoon sounds. People ordering drinks, chairs scraping on floors, quiet conversations about work and family. None of these people knew that their planet might be about to become a battlefield. We need to tell the government, Park said. Tell them what? That I used secret equipment to spy on our new alien friends? That I think they are lying to us? Minji shook her head. They will not believe us. And even if they do believe us, what can Earth do? Our most powerful weapons are toys compared to alien technology. That was when the Vorthak Navigator approached their table. Minji did not see him coming. One moment she was talking to Commander Park about Earth's defense options. The next moment, a 7-foot-tall being made of crystal and light was standing beside their table. The other people in the coffee shop stopped talking. Some pointed. Some took pictures with their phones. But the Vorthak Navigator ignored them all. He looked directly at Minji with eyes that glowed like blue stars. Lee Minji, he said in perfect Korean. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Blue Echo 7. Minji's heart started beating so fast she thought it might burst. No one except Project Lighthouse personnel knew her call sign. She had never told the Vorthak her real name or her connection to the space monitoring program. The Navigator leaned down close to her ear. The other people in the coffee shop could not hear what he whispered, but Minji heard every word clearly. Your Species has 47 hours before the Drakhturi fleet arrives. They will destroy every living thing on this planet unless Earth proves worthy of survival. We came here to give you a chance, not to hide behind your protection. He pressed something small and warm into her hand. It felt like a piece of living metal that pulsed with its own heartbeat. This contains instructions for humanity's test. Only you can help your people pass. The woman who sits quietly in row 7 while others panic has the strength your species needs. Before Minji could respond, the navigator straightened up and walked away. He moved through the crowded coffee shop like he was floating. The other customers watched him leave, then slowly returned to their conversations as if nothing important had happened. Minji looked down at the object in her hand. It was smooth and warm, about the size of a thumb drive, but it seemed to be alive. Patterns of light moved under its surface like tiny lightning storms. Commander Park stared at her with wide eyes. "What did he give you?" Minji closed her fingers around the device. "Instructions for saving the world." Outside the coffee shop window, the Vorthak ships hung in the sky like beautiful, deadly flowers. And somewhere in the darkness of space, their enemies were getting closer with each passing hour. The Drakhturi ships appeared in Earth's sky like hungry shadows at dawn. There were 12 of them, each one bigger than the largest Vorthak vessel. They did not look like machines. They looked like living creatures made of dark metal and pulsing veins. Red lights moved under their skin, like blood flowing through alien arteries. Li Minji stood in the underground command center beneath Seoul, watching the invasion begin on dozens of screens. The Vorthak device in her hand had led her here, guiding her through secret tunnels that she never knew existed. Commander Park Hyunwoo stood beside her, his face pale as he watched Earth's defenses crumble. "Our satellites are gone," reported a young technician named Kim Sora. "All 12 orbital defense platforms destroyed in the first 30 seconds. Admiral Kim Tae-hyun, the commander of Korea's space forces, slammed his fist on the metal table. "How is that possible? Those platforms had the most advanced weapons we could build." "Not advanced enough," Park said quietly. He pointed at the main screen, which showed one of the Drakhturi ships hovering over Tokyo. "Look at how they move. They are not using engines like we understand them. They bend space itself to travel." The Drakhturi had not attacked Earth's cities yet. Instead, they were destroying every military target they could find. Space stations, missile bases, naval fleets. Everything humanity had built to protect itself was being erased from existence with terrifying efficiency. On the screens, Minji watched Earth's fighter jets try to intercept the alien ships. The human pilots were brave, but their weapons could not even scratch the Drakhturi vessels. The alien ships swatted them away like annoying insects. "We need to evacuate the major cities," Admiral Kim said to his staff. "Get as many people as possible into underground shelters." "Sir," Kim Sora replied, "the Drakhturi are not targeting civilian areas. They are only destroying military installations." That was true. The alien ships flew over Seoul, Tokyo, Beijing, and other great cities without firing a single shot at the millions of people below. They seemed to be following some kind of rule about what they could and could not attack. Minji felt the Vorthak device grow warm in her hand. She looked at it and saw new patterns of light moving under its surface. The device was trying to communicate with her. She found a quiet corner of the command center and activated the device. A hologram appeared in the air above her palm, showing the image of the Vorthak navigator who had approached her in the coffee shop. "Li Minji," the hologram said, in its wind chime voice. "The test has begun." "What test?" she whispered. "What do the Drakhturi want from us?" The hologram flickered, as if the connection was weak. "The Drakhturi are not conquerors in the way your people understand conquest. They are judges. For 10,000 years, they have traveled the galaxy, evaluating Species for worthiness to survive in the new order they are creating. What new order? A galaxy where only the strongest and most honorable species are allowed to exist. They have destroyed countless worlds whose people failed their test. But they have also elevated species who proved their worth to positions of great power. On the screens around the command center, Minji could see that Earth's organized military. Resistance was ending. Every major base, every warship, every defense system had been eliminated. The planet was completely helpless. "What is the test?" Minji asked the hologram. The Drakturi believe that a species reveals its true nature when facing certain death. Most species either surrender immediately, begging for mercy, or fight with desperate fear until they are all dead. Both responses prove unworthiness. Then what response do they want? The hologram paused, and Minji could hear explosions in the distance as the last of Earth's orbital defenses were destroyed. They want to see what they call quiet courage, the ability to face hopeless odds with dignity and wisdom. They want to see a species that can find honor even in defeat, that can show compassion even to their destroyers. Minji felt cold understanding wash over her. The test is not about fighting them. It is about how we choose to face death. Yes, but there is more. The demonstration of courage cannot come from your leaders or your warriors. It must come from an ordinary person. Someone the Drakturi would consider insignificant. Someone like a woman who sits quietly in row 7 while others panic around her. The hologram began to fade as the device's power weakened. You have 6 hours before the Drakturi begin their final judgment. If no one passes their test, they will sterilize your entire planet and move on. If someone succeeds, humanity will join the galactic community as equals. "Wait," Minji called out. "How do I pass the test? What am I supposed to do?" But the hologram was gone, leaving her alone with a warm piece of alien technology and the weight of her entire species' survival on her shoulders. She returned to the main area of the command center, where Admiral Kim was trying to coordinate with military leaders. Around the world, the conversations were not going well. Every nation's defenses had been destroyed. Earth had no weapons left that could threaten the Drakturi ships. "We should try to negotiate," suggested one general from the American forces. "Maybe we can offer them resources or territory in exchange for sparing our major population centers." "No," said Admiral Kim. "That would be surrender. We cannot show weakness to these creatures." "What else can we do?" the American general replied. "Our weapons are useless against them. We lost this war before it even began." Commander Park looked at Minji. He had noticed her conversation with the Vorthok device and could see the worry in her eyes. "What did you learn?" he asked quietly. Minji pulled him aside where the others could not hear. "This is not a war," she whispered. "It is a test. The Drakturi are judging whether humanity deserves to survive, and right now we are failing." She explained what the Vorthok Navigator had told her about quiet courage and the need for an ordinary person to demonstrate humanity's true character. Park listened carefully, then asked, "What kind of demonstration do they want?" "I'm not sure yet. But I think it has something to do with showing them that humans can be brave without being stupid, that we can face death with dignity instead of fear or anger." On the screens around them, the Drakturi ships had finished destroying Earth's military forces. Now they were moving into position over major cities. 12 massive shadows blocked out the sun over billions of people who had no idea their fate was being decided by alien judges. 6 hours, Minji said to herself. "We have 6 hours to save the world." But she still had no idea how one woman, with a piece of alien technology, was supposed to convince the most powerful species in the galaxy that humanity was worth saving. The clock was running out, and the test of Earth's worthiness was about to begin. 4 hours remained before the Drakturi final judgment. In the command center, world leaders argued over video calls while their cities sat helpless under alien shadows. President Chen from China wanted to surrender immediately. The British. Prime Minister suggested hiding the population in underground bunkers. The American president kept asking about secret weapons that did not exist. Lee Minji ignored their voices and focused on the data flowing across her screens. She had connected the Vorthak device to the command center's computers, and the information it provided painted a clearer picture of what humanity was facing. Dr. Choi Ji-won arrived at the command center carrying a bag full of computer equipment. She was Minji's former colleague from Project Lighthouse, a specialist in alien communication patterns. Ji-won had short hair and quick eyes that missed nothing important. "I came as soon as I got your message," Ji-won said, setting up her equipment next to Minji's workstation. "Show me what you have learned about these Drakturi." Minji shared the intercepted communications she had been analyzing for the past 2 hours. "They are not just destroyers," she explained. "They see themselves as gardeners of the galaxy. They remove species they consider weeds and help the worthy ones grow stronger." Ji-won studied the data patterns on her screen. "Look at this linguistic structure. The Drakturi language has concepts that do not exist in human thinking. They have 17 different words for types of courage, but no word that means the same thing as our word for fear. What does that tell us? They understand bravery in ways we do not, but they might not understand human emotions like fear or desperation. To them, a species that fights frantically for survival looks pathetic rather than brave." Commander Park joined their conversation. "The Vorthak told Minji that the test requires quiet courage from an ordinary person." "What would that look like? To aliens who think this way?" Ji-won pointed to a section of translated Drakturi text. "Based on their communication patterns, I think quiet courage means choosing to act with wisdom and compassion even when death is certain. Not fighting because you hope to win, but acting because it is the right thing to do." Minji felt an idea beginning to form in her mind. It was a crazy idea that would probably get her killed, but it was the only plan that made sense based on what they knew about Drakturi psychology. "What if we do not try to fight them or negotiate with them?" she said slowly. "What if we approach them with curiosity instead of fear?" Park looked confused. "Approach them how?" "Think about it. Every species they have judged probably reacted the same way, either begging for mercy or attacking in desperation. What if humanity did something completely different? What if we went to them not as enemies or victims, but as people who wanted to understand them?" Ji-won's eyes widened as she understood what Minji was suggesting. "You want to go to their ships voluntarily, not to surrender, but to learn about them." "Yes, and not just me. We need a group of ordinary people, teachers, students, engineers, grandparents, people who represent the best of humanity without being leaders or warriors." Admiral Kim overheard their conversation and walked over to their workstation. "That is suicide," he said. "You would be flying directly into the hands of creatures that have destroyed thousands of worlds." "Maybe," Minji replied, "but staying here is also suicide. In 4 hours, they will judge us based on what they have seen so far. Earth's government's panicking and our military trying futile attacks. That does not look like quiet courage to me." Stood up and activated the main communication system that connected to governments around the world. Her voice echoed through command centers in every major nation. "This is Lee Minji speaking from Seoul Command. I am a quantum engineer and a specialist in alien technology. I have information about the Drakturi that your leaders need to hear." On the screens, she could see presidents and prime ministers turning to listen. She had never spoken to world leaders before, but there was no time for nervousness. The Drakturi are not trying to conquer Earth. They are testing whether humanity deserves to survive. Every species they encounter faces the same test. Most fail and are destroyed. A few pass and join a galactic community of worthy civilizations. President Martinez from Spain interrupted her. "What kind of test? How do we pass?" "The test measures what they call quiet courage, the ability to face death with dignity and wisdom, rather than fear or anger. But the demonstration cannot come from political or military leaders. It must come from ordinary citizens. The British. Prime Minister leaned forward. "What are you proposing?" Minji took a deep breath. "I am proposing that a small group of volunteers approach the Draktori ships directly. Not to attack or surrender, but to show them what humanity is really like when we are not afraid." The video conference erupted in arguments. Some leaders called her plan insane. Others demanded to know her credentials. A few asked practical questions about how such a mission would work, but one voice cut through the chaos. It belonged to an elderly woman from the Japanese delegation, a civilian, advisor named Yamamoto Keiko. "Young lady," she said in accented English, "you are asking people to fly towards certain death on the hope that aliens will be impressed by their bravery. Why would anyone volunteer for such a mission?" Minji looked directly into the camera. "Because someone has to. Because in 4 hours, the Draktori will decide whether 7 billion people live or die. And because I believe that humans at their best are braver and kinder than any species in the galaxy. We just need to show them who we really are." The room fell silent. On the screens, world leaders looked at each other with uncertainty. Some seemed convinced. Others looked skeptical. All of them understood that conventional options had run out. Dr. Ji-won was the first to speak. "I will go with you." Commander Park nodded. "Count me in." Admiral Kim shook his head. "This is madness. You cannot save the world with good intentions and hope." "Maybe not," Minji replied. "But we cannot save it with weapons either. Our military technology is thousands of years behind theirs. The only advantage humanity has is something the Draktori have never encountered before." "What advantage is that?" Minji smiled for the first time in days. "We are the species that shows kindness to strangers. We are the people who help others even when it costs us everything. We are the civilization that reaches out with curiosity instead of withdrawing in fear." She looked around the command center at the faces of people who had spent their lives preparing for war, now being asked to choose peace instead. The Draktori have judged thousands of species by their worst moments. What if we show them humanity? At our very best? Outside, the alien ships waited in the sky like patient predators. But for the first time since the invasion began, Minji felt something that might have been hope. The test would require more than just her courage. It would require ordinary people to do something extraordinary. And despite everything, she believed that humans were capable of exactly that kind of miracle. 2 hours before the final judgment, 18 civilian aircraft sat on the runway at Seoul International Airport. They were not military jets or transport planes. They were ordinary passenger planes that had been modified with Vorthak navigation, systems, and communication equipment. Each plane carried volunteers who had answered Minji's call. Flight Lieutenant Han Soo-young checked her instruments in the lead aircraft. She was a commercial pilot who had been flying passengers to Tokyo and Singapore for 12 years. Today she would fly toward the largest Draktori command ship hanging over the Pacific Ocean. "Final systems check complete," she announced over the radio to the other 17 pilots. "All volunteers ready for departure." In the passenger cabin, behind her sat 12 people who had volunteered to represent humanity. There was Park Min-soo, a high school history teacher from Busan. Kim Nari, a grandmother who had raised 4 children and worked in a textile factory for 30 years. Lee Dong-hyun, a college student studying music composition. Each person had their own reason for volunteering, but they all shared the same quiet determination. Minji sat in seat 7A of the lead plane, the same row number where this whole story had begun. She held the Vorthak device in her hands and watched, the data streams flowing across its surface. The device had helped them understand how to modify the aircraft so the Draktori would not immediately destroy them. but it could not guarantee their survival. Blue Echo 7. This is Soul Control, came Commander Park's voice through her headset. He was staying behind to coordinate the mission from the ground. Weather conditions are clear. Draktori ships are maintaining position. You are cleared for takeoff. Soul Control, this is Blue Echo 7, Minji replied. Beginning final approach to humanity's future. The 18 planes took off together, rising into the morning sky like a flock of metal birds. Below them, millions of people in Seoul looked up and watched, knowing that their fate was flying away from them toward an uncertain destination. As they climbed higher, Minji could see the Draktori command ship growing larger through her window. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a living mountain floating in the sky. Red lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that reminded her of a heartbeat. All aircraft, this is Flight Leader Han, came Soo-young's voice over the radio. We are approaching the outer perimeter of the Draktori fleet. Remember, we are not here to fight or surrender. We are here to show them who we are. The response from the other planes was immediate. One by one, the volunteer pilots checked in. Kim Jae-won from Plane 7, carrying a group of retired teachers. Song Mik-young from Plane 12 with a crew of young engineers. Each pilot sounded calm and determined, even though they were flying toward almost certain death. The Draktori ships detected the approaching aircraft when they were still 50 kilometers away. Warning signals flashed on every instrument panel, as alien targeting systems locked onto the human planes. But the Draktori did not fire immediately. They seemed curious about why such primitive aircraft would approach them voluntarily. This is it, Minji said to herself. She activated the communication system that would broadcast to all Draktori ships simultaneously. Her voice would be translated by Vorthak technology and transmitted directly to the alien commanders. Greetings, people of the stars, she began. My name is Lee Minji. I am a quantum engineer from the planet Earth. We come to you not as enemies or as beggars, but as curious beings who wish to understand your purpose. She paused, watching the data from the Vorthak device. The Draktori ships had stopped moving. They were listening. We know that you have judged many species across the galaxy. We know that most have failed your tests and been destroyed. We do not come here to ask for mercy or to challenge your power. We come because we believe that understanding between different peoples is more valuable than victory or survival. Through her window, Minji could see smaller Draktori vessels moving to surround the human aircraft. Their weapons were powering up, ready to destroy the intruders at any moment. But still, they waited. Each person on these aircraft chose to come here freely, Minji continued. Park Min-soo teaches children about history because he believes knowledge should be shared. Kim Nari raised 4 children and worked for 40 years to build a better world for them. Lee Dong-yun creates music because he thinks beauty makes life worth living. She looked around the cabin at her fellow volunteers. Each face showed fear, but also something stronger than fear: hope, dignity, love for the world they were trying to save. We are not heroes or leaders. We are ordinary people who believe that even in the face of death, it is better to reach out with open hearts than to close ourselves off in fear. We come to you carrying the best of what humanity has created. The Vorthak device in her hands suddenly blazed with light. Data streams flowed faster than she had ever seen before. The Draktori were responding. If our species must end today, Minji said, let it end with us trying to understand you rather than fighting you. Let it end with us offering friendship to those who could destroy us. Let it end with us showing that some things are more important than survival. That was when the Draktori weapons fired, but instead of destroying the human aircraft, the alien weapons created a net of energy that gently captured each plane. The 18 aircraft were drawn slowly toward the massive command ship, held safely in beams of soft blue light. Park Min-soo looked out his window and laughed with relief. "I think they want to talk to us," he said. Kim Nari reached across the aisle and squeezed the hand of the young engineer sitting next to her. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." But Minji knew the test was not over yet. Being captured alive was better than being destroyed, but the Draktori had not yet decided humanity's fate. Through the Vorthak device, she could sense their confusion and curiosity. In 10,000 years of judging species, they had never encountered anything like this. The human aircraft were pulled into the belly of the alien ship, through an opening that appeared in its smooth surface. As the planes landed gently on a platform inside the vessel, Minji saw that they were not alone. Hundreds of Draktori had gathered to observe the strange creatures who had flown willingly into their grasp. The aliens stood motionless, their red eyes glowing with what might have been surprise or interest or something else entirely. One of the Draktori stepped forward. It was larger than the others, with more complex patterns of light flowing under its dark skin. When it spoke, its voice resonated through the chamber like distant thunder. "In 10,000 years," it said in perfect Korean, "no species has ever approached us with curiosity instead of fear. No people have ever offered friendship to those who could destroy them. You puzzle us, humans of Earth." Minji stood up in her seat and spoke through the aircraft's external speakers. "We puzzle ourselves sometimes, but we have learned that the most important things in life often make no logical sense. Love, art, hope, the choice to help strangers even when it costs us everything." The lead Draktori was silent for a long moment. Around the chamber, other aliens whispered to each other, in their strange musical language. "Your test is complete," the alien finally announced, "but your judgment is still to come." Inside the Draktori command ship, silence stretched like a held breath. The 18 human aircraft sat on the alien platform, while hundreds of dark-skinned beings with glowing red eyes studied their unexpected guests. Lee Minji could feel the weight of their attention through the walls of her plane. The lead Draktori, who seemed to be their commander, stepped closer to the aircraft. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 10,000 years of galactic judgment. "We are the Draktori. We have cleansed the galaxy of weak species and elevated the worthy to join our order. We came to Earth expecting to find another primitive civilization that would either beg for mercy or fight with desperate fury. Instead, you have shown us something we have never seen before." Through her window, Minji watched other Draktori, moving closer to examine the human planes. Their movements were graceful and deliberate, like dancers performing an ancient ceremony. Some of them seemed to be arguing among themselves in their musical language. "What we have seen puzzles us," the commander continued. "You approach those who could destroy you with curiosity instead of fear. You offer friendship to your judges. You speak of beauty and love and hope as if these things matter more than survival itself." The Vorthak device in Minji's hands pulsed. With new information, she could see data patterns that showed the Draktori were genuinely confused. In their long history of testing species, they had developed clear categories for how civilizations behaved when facing extinction. Humanity did not fit any of those categories. For this reason, the commander announced, the Council of Judges has reached a decision that has never been made before in our history. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the soft humming of the ship's systems seemed to stop. Minji held her breath and felt every other human volunteer doing the same. "Earth will not only be spared destruction, your species will be granted immediate elevation to Navigator status within the galactic community. You will join us not as subjects or junior members, but as guides for other species who seek to understand the meaning of true courage." Kim Nari, the grandmother in seat 12C, started crying with relief. Park Minsu, the history teacher, laughed out loud. All around the aircraft, volunteers hugged each other and celebrated the impossible news that their world would survive. But the Draktori commander was not finished speaking. However, there is something else you must know. The Vorthak who brought this test to your world did not come here by accident. They have been watching humanity for many cycles, studying your behavior and waiting for the right moment to present you to our judgment. A new voice spoke from behind the Drakturi commander. It was the Vorthak navigator, Zilreth, who had approached Minji in the coffee shop 3 days ago. His crystalline form reflected the lights of the alien chamber as he stepped forward. "Greetings. Again, Li Minji," Zilreth said in his wind chime voice. "It is time to reveal the full truth about why we came to Earth." He gestured to a large screen that descended from the ceiling of the chamber. The screen showed images of human activities from around the world: doctors treating patients in poor countries, teachers working in schools with no resources, scientists sharing their discoveries freely with others, ordinary people helping strangers during disasters. "For 50 of your years, we have monitored Earth's communications and observed your behavior," Zilreth explained. "We discovered something that amazed us. Humans routinely sacrifice their own comfort and safety to help others, even people they have never met and will never see again." The images on the screen changed to show more examples. Firefighters running into burning buildings, Coast Guard crews rescuing people from sinking ships, volunteers building homes for families who had lost everything. "Most species in the galaxy help only their own families or tribes," Zilreth continued. "But humans show kindness to strangers as naturally as breathing. You have a concept called compassion that exists in very few civilizations. This made us believe that you might be the species the galaxy has been waiting for." Minji finally understood why the Vorthak had chosen Earth. You needed someone to show the Drakturi that there was another way to evaluate species, not just by their strength or intelligence, but by their capacity for kindness. "Exactly," the Drakturi commander said. "For too long, we have judged civilizations only by how they face destruction. Your people have taught us that we should also judge them by how they choose to live, by how they treat those who are weaker, by their willingness to help others even when it costs them everything." The chamber filled with musical sounds as the Drakturi began to sing in harmony. It was a song of celebration and welcome, the first time in their history they had performed it for a newly discovered species. 6 months later, Minji stood on the bridge of a joint human-Vorthak exploration vessel called the Harmony. Through the viewing ports, she could see stars and nebulae that no human had ever seen before. Her old call sign, Blue Echo 7, had become her official designation as Earth's first galactic navigator. Commander Park Hyunwoo, now serving as Earth's Galactic Defense Coordinator, appeared on the communication screen from his office in Seoul. "How is the mission going, Blue Echo 7? "Better than we ever imagined," Minji replied. "We have made contact with 3 new species this month alone. All of them want to learn about the human concept of compassion. Earth has become the diplomatic center for this entire region of the galaxy." Through another screen, she could see the Drakturi homeworld, where human teachers were working with alien students to develop new ways of evaluating civilizations. The old system of testing species through destruction was being replaced with programs that helped young civilizations learn to be kinder to each other. Kim Nari, the grandmother who had volunteered for the dangerous mission, was now serving as Earth's first ambassador of compassion. She traveled to different worlds, teaching alien children about the importance of helping others. Park Min-soo, the history teacher, had established the first galactic academy for cultural understanding. "There is something else," Park said from his office in Seoul. "The Vorthak have asked us to help them with a new project. They want to create a network of peaceful species that can help protect younger civilizations from the remaining aggressive empires in the galaxy." Minji smiled as she looked out at the stars. "Tell them yes. After all, that is what humans do best. We help others, even when they are strangers, even when it is dangerous, even when it seems impossible." She thought back to that morning in Seoul International Airport, when she had sat quietly in row 7, reading her physics journal while the world changed around her. She had been waiting for someone important to arrive, though she had not known it at the time. The someone important had turned out to be humanity itself. Earth had not just survived its first contact with galactic civilization. It had become the teacher that the galaxy needed, showing others that strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the courage to understand and protect. Outside, the viewing ports, new stars beckoned with the promise of new friends waiting to be discovered. And for the first time in her life, Minji truly believed that the universe was exactly where it was supposed to be.